snow day. We welcome you this morning to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada, where it's our mission to grow together in love, faith, justice, and joy. My name is Xiomara Rodriguez, and my pronouns are she, her, and ella. And I am extremely honored to serve as your worship associate this morning. Thank you for letting me do that. And I would like to remind you that we are meeting in the ancestral lands of the Paiute, Shoshone, and Washoe tribes, and must be very mindful of our profound debt to our indigenous brothers and sisters. As we celebrate and remember Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., let me just remember some of his words. From his letter from Birmingham jail on April 16, 1963, he said, "Injustice, anywhere it is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly." In his speech, I Have a Dream of August 28, 1963, he said, "Out of the mountain of despair, a stone of hope." With these words in mind, I would like to welcome you all here, no matter where you are today, inside our sanctuary or on Zoom. Hi, Zoom. Because we welcome one another in the most radical, loving, faith-filled gesture we can make in each moment of each day. It is to open our hearts' embrace of all that is in ourselves and in the world. We welcome you regardless of your racial identity, age, economic circumstances, immigration status, sexual orientation, or gender ID. We welcome you, and we are so glad you're here. If this is your first time or your 150th time, we're glad you're here. We ask that all of you respect the wishes of folks who choose to continue social distance, practice communication with one another, be intentional about honoring personal boundaries. For those of you on Zoom, you know the drill. Hasn't changed. You'll be muted through the whole service, and you can put your comments in the chat box. Please don't forget that, and please don't make your comments while somebody's speaking. Be respectful. And also on Zoom, please, after the service, you could stay and have coffee time, okay? So don't forget that. So no matter where you are today, let's enjoy our service. And before we greet one another, and this is very important, I would like to remind you of the blue sheets in the back for joys and sorrows. You could fill them out during the time of greeting, bring them forward so we could have them and be able to mention them during our joys and sorrows. Now, please take a few minutes to greet one another in whichever way it's more comfortable with you. A hug, a handshake, a wave, an elbow bump, a fist bump. And if you're on Zoom, you could do it by the chat. So let's go, and then I'll sing the bowl when we're ready to get back together, okay? Let's go. And now, our announcement time. And I want to remind all of you that you can sign up for our newsletter that keeps you informed of all the activities here at UUFNN. It is very important if you sign up. You could do it online or you could get in the back. But please, those letters are awesome. Now, I would like to bring Nancy Oakley forward because she has something to tell us about the board. Nancy, where are you?
Wow, I'm not sure I deserve that, but anyway, thank you. We're going to have a listening circle after service today here in the great room and talk to the board. So anyone who wants to share any thoughts, questions, ideas, join us. And Jackie will be on Zoom also. So any of you who are on Zoom and want to participate, just hang on to your Zoom. So anyway, thank you very much. Have a good day.
I think I'm next in order. I'm Sheila Shea, pronouns she and her. I am the reluctant chair of membership ministry. But aren't we all reluctant in some ways? Okay, membership is going to have a special invitation to those who are relatively new here and have been coming regularly. And next Sunday, right after service in this room, we are going to provide some light snacks and provide some answers to questions. Reverend Shelley and the membership team, ministry, are going to be here to tell you what being a member of UUFNN is all about. So it's right after service, and we'll have a time for questions. And most importantly, probably, is that you'll have a chance to meet some others who are thinking about becoming new members this year. So thank you, and I'm to call up the next announcer, Nathan. So come on up, Nathan.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Nathan Bakken. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the Director of Faith Exploration here at UUFNN. And I have quite a few announcements, so I'm going to try and say them not as fast, but as short as possible. My first announcement is Greener Sanctuary, our ministry here around environmental justice, is going to be meeting in the Star King Room at 11:45 today. So that is in that building, right down that hallway, across the little walkway into that building. It will also be on Zoom as well. My next announcement is this Saturday. Many of you who attended our services through December will remember our first Sunday in December, we did an Active Hope service focused on building resiliency and hope in the face of all that our world is asking us to hold. This Saturday, we are going to be doing a Active Hope workshop. So we'll be taking the themes from that service and we're going to be elongating them. It's going to be from 11:30 to 3:30 in the Star King Room this Saturday, January 20th. And if you're interested, if you'd like more information, you can email me at nathan@uufnn.org, or for those in person, you can catch me on your way out. I have a RSVP sign-up sheet. It's going to be an amazing, amazing opportunity to give us some skills and practices to help hold us in a spirit of hope as we meet all that the world offers us. And finally, today for Martin Luther King Day, the Northern Nevada MLK Holiday Committee, in partnership with the Nevada Interfaith Association, is presenting the 38th Annual Interfaith Memorial Service that starts today at 4 p.m. at the McKinley Arts and Culture Center. All of us and all of you are invited. The title of the service is Building Our Community One Generation at a Time. And tomorrow at 10:30, there will be the 26th annual Community Memorial Caravan. This year's caravan is going to be meeting at Greater New Hope Baptist Church, which is at 1810 Helena Avenue here in Reno. And I'm going to invite Lloyd.
Thank you, Nathan. I don't usually get invited to these things, so I'm thrilled. I actually have a question for Sheila before I make my announcement. If I re-sign up as a member, can I have the snacks?
Anything left over, yes.
That has not worked before, by the way. Just a quick announcement on the HVAC campaign. As you know, we're in the throes of trying to raise $85,000 for the replacement of our HVAC system. I want to tell you the good news is that with what we've received so far and pledges that have been made, and if you've made a pledge, we would appreciate you fulfilling that quite quickly. We will make all 4 of the matches if we do that. So we will be, yeah, that's great news. So that number will bring us a little north of $65,000. We'd like to get to 85. We're going to take some more of us to do that. But if we get together and write checks to whatever extent, $500,000, $250,000, whatever you're comfortable with, we can get this done rather quickly. We need to make sure we're comfortable money-wise before we let the contract, and that is coming out shortly. So if you haven't done it yet, please either send a note to the treasurer at treasurer@uufnn.org with a pledge, or just put the check in the mail and send it to the treasurer here and write HVAC campaign on the memo line. Great, and thanks for what we're doing. Thank you.
Hi, I'll be very quick. Just a reminder, if any of you don't know, the ARC project, Anti-Racism Culture, is inviting people to join us on February 3rd for a really special event at the Art Museum here in Reno. We'll have our own docent, and we have 3 or 4 spaces left. It's February 3rd, and it'll start at 10. And for any additional information you want, you can contact me at renolily@gmail.com. I'm giving you my own email because apparently things are not getting to me that people are sending to the Show the Plate email or the ARC email. Anyway, we do have a few spaces left, so just get in touch if you want to join us, February 3rd. Okay.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Shelley Thompson. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the interim minister here at UUFNN, lucky me. During this time of change and hope and radical imagination, isn't it wonderful to hear that there's so much happening here? Lots and lots of good things, lots of ways to participate. This is a time of transition when we're reflecting and refocusing on the meaning and purpose of this Unitarian Universalist congregation, focusing towards an ever more intentional manifestation of beloved community. We make that real day by day. We're doing it now. On this day each year, we honor the life and the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. His is a legacy that embraces all of us who love justice, everyone who seeks peace and reconciliation, and yes, everyone who doesn't. His is a legacy of radical love, love in action, and an unflinching determination to persist in bending the arc of justice, bending the arc of the universe towards justice. He said, one of the great misfortunes in history is that all too many individuals and institutions find themselves in a great period of change and yet fail to achieve the new attitudes and outlooks that the new situation demands. There is nothing more tragic than to sleep through a revolution. Dr. King's legacy inspires us to wake, to rise, to keep on moving forward. Light our chalice this morning with the words of Audette Fulbright Nelson. The light we kindle is set in the lamp of history. We inherit this free faith from the brave and the gentle, fierce and outspoken, hearts and minds that have come before us. Let us be worthy inheritors of this faith, and through our good works, pass it boldly to a new generation. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing opening hymn 1018, Come and Go With Me.
I want to invite you all to settle in for our time for all ages. This is the time in our service where we invite everyone to meet the moment with the imagination of a child, to hear a story told to you, and take some time to be present to the power and wisdom of storytelling. Our story today is titled Walking with the Wind by John Lewis, adapted by Beryl Ashenberg, a UU religious educator. The story which that is called Walking with the Wind, is included in John Lewis's biography of the same name. A bunch of us children were outside my Aunt Seneva's house, playing in her dirt yard. It had been a lovely day, and all of us cousins were jumping and being rowdy, and then the sky began clouding over. The wind started picking up, lightning flashed far off in the distance, and suddenly, I wasn't thinking about playing anymore. I was terrified. Aunt Seneva was the only adult around, and as the sky darkened and the wind grew stronger, she herded us all inside her house. Her house was not the biggest place around, and it seemed even smaller with so many children squeezed inside, small and surprisingly quiet. All of the shouting and laughter that had been going on earlier outside had stopped. Shh. The wind was howling and the house was starting to shake. We were scared. Even Aunt Seneva was scared. And then it got worse. The house was beginning to sway, the wood-planked flooring beneath us began to bend, and then the corner of the room started lifting up. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. None of us could. The storm was actually pulling the house towards the sky with us inside it. And that's when our aunt told us to clasp hands. Line up, hold hands, she said, and we did as we were told. She then had us walk as a group towards the corner of the floor that was rising. From the kitchen to the front of the house we walked, this wind howling outside, sheets of rain beating on the tin roof, and then we walked back in the other direction because the other end of the house began to lift. That end's coming up now. Get your weight over there by the kitchen sink. And that's how it went. Back and forth, back and forth. A bunch of children walking with the wind, holding that trembling house down with the weight of our small bodies. More than a century has passed since that day. And it has struck me more than once over those many years that our society is not unlike the children in that house, rocked again and again by the winds of one storm or another, the walls around us seeming at times as if they might fly apart. It seemed that way in the 1960s, at the height of the civil rights movement, when America itself felt as if it might burst at the seams. So much tension, so many storms. But the people of conscience never left the house. They never ran away. They stayed, they came together. They did the best they could, clasping hands and moving towards the corner of the house that was the weakest. Birmingham, Alabama was tromping on Black people's rights. Move on over to that corner, children, and organize the Children's March. Then another corner would lift and we would go there. Look, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlaws discrimination based on race, religion, sex, or national origin. Head to that side, children. That's where you're needed now. And inevitably, and eventually, the storm would settle, the house would stand. But we knew another storm would come, and we would do it all over again. And it did, and we did, and we still do, all of us, you and I, as children holding hands, walking with the wind. It's at this time in our service that we sing our children out. We're going to be doing arts and crafts in the lobby, creating our ideal world, the world that we are all working to create. So as I invite our congregation to sing, I invite any young people and children to follow me out to the lobby where we'll be doing arts and crafts. And if you feel called to stay, in that back, against that back wall on a table with yellow tablecloths are coloring sheets, pillows, fidget spinners, toys to keep you focused and entertained if you do choose to stay in the service. Thank you.
Now is the time in our service where we settle in and we touch the places in our hearts that have joys to share, that have celebrations and good news that we want to communicate to one another, our friends, our loved ones who will rejoice with us. And the time when we are holding so close to the surface our sorrows, things that are so difficult, we can't bear to carry them alone. We need our friends, our loved ones. We need people to know our story, to know our truth, and to hold our hands through that storm. Bill and Cindy Fogel share wishes in loving memory of their Aunt Sandra, who passed in December. She was a wonderful woman and quite a character. I'm going to light our candles. As always, we have a candle for our joys and celebrations. We have a candle for the sorrows, the burdens we carry. And we have a global candle. Today, we're aware that it's been 100 days of war in the Middle East. And we're aware that we are here, holding hands through the storm. You're invited to come forward and light your own candles, or, oh, did we take away the candles? We did, I apologize. Next week, we will be able to return to our practice of lighting candles up here. The bowl of stones is in the back if you'd like to go and place a stone there. And I believe there are still some candles back there. And you are invited to remain comfortably in your seats as we sing the meditation on breathing. Today, we honor once more the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was born on January 15th, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia, 95 years ago. Of course, King is remembered as a civil rights leader who had a passionate commitment to nonviolence in the struggle for racial and social justice during the 1950s and 60s. When he was assassinated on April 4th, 1968, he was just 39 years old. As Unitarian Universalists, Dr. King's story is intertwined with our faith movement in a number of ways. Our Unitarian, our Universalist, and our Unitarian Universalist forebears were active participants in the civil rights struggle. A number of our congregations have their own stories of their involvement in the movement for desegregation and voting rights. We're still working on those voting rights. What is more, Dr. King was a dear friend and colleague to many of his Unitarian Universalist contemporaries, largely due to the time that he spent in graduate school at Boston University, where our own Nathan received his MDiv. For those of you who are new to us, Boston is the home of Unitarianism on this continent going back 400 years. The American Unitarian Association was founded there in 1825, and it became the home of the Unitarian Universalist Association once the two denominations merged in 1961. Here at UUFNN, when we take the time to honor Dr. King, the remembrance brings up grief that is not only the grief of our nation, but it touches on the personal for us and for our faith communities. For many of us as progressive people who are still engaged in the struggles for justice and equality as they are manifest in our current society. One of our older hymns that points to our place in a long historical line of faithful activists says, "What they dreamed is ours to do." King certainly had a powerful prophetic dream. There is a strong connection between all of that history and the work we're doing right here at UUFNN. Our work with community organizing partners in Faith in Action for the rights of the unhoused, addressing food scarcity and hunger with Food Posse and our work with the Food Bank, our Greener Sanctuary climate justice work, and our UU the Vote initiative, as well as all of the folks that have worked with our immigrant and refugee program and gone on border trips and continue to pay attention and offer assistance in that area. In addition to all the individual efforts that you all have made in your own lives, following your own conscience. So many good people doing great work for decades. We're about to have our 65th anniversary next year, making a difference right here in Reno, right now. However, we've come to a greater and greater realization that there's a wicked paradox right at the heart of our faith. It's a uniquely human paradox. And while Unitarian Universalists have a long tradition of social justice activism, our faith tradition also struggles to be critically reflective and accountable for the role that the culture of our communities and institutions plays in perpetuating the very injustices we seek to eliminate. We are still a predominantly white faith, and it is our white supremacy culture that is the culprit, not our values, not the way we treat one another, our culture, that often we don't even notice that we're doing. And this, of course, is a reflection of the wider culture in the United States, which has its roots in the transatlantic slave trade upon which this nation was founded and which made this country wealthy and prosperous. We know that the white supremacy culture was invented here to support the institution of slavery, and it continues to curtail freedoms and marginalize people with devastating consequences. Boston's a prime example of a major city that played an integral part in this history. So is Reno, and every other city and town. Cities like Minden and Gardnerville that only recently silenced their sundown sirens. It took a specific ordinance with a $50,000 penalty to get them to stop. That is so deeply wounding to everyone. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. What happens to one of us happens to all of us. There are such deep wounds all over this nation, in the hearts and minds of our beloveds, wounds that are inflicted to benefit those of us who, by accident of birth, have been given white privilege, privilege of class and education and wealth and so many other unfair advantages. I don't want us to be complicit with that agenda. That's not who we are. I want us to continue to be activists and advocates and accomplices for justice and equity, for human flourishing. As Unitarian Universalists, our current campaign and upcoming vote in June on the new revised Article 2, our bylaw that specifies our shared values and our covenants, is a courageous move to underscore our mutual accountability, our accountability to remain informed, awake, and committed to transforming ourselves. We have to turn inward now and fix us, transform ourselves, our own hearts, our own minds, get those attitudes and new skills that Dr. King was telling us about, to not sleep through the revolution that's ongoing. Transforming ourselves and our institutions by dismantling the systems of oppression that our faith has been complicit in perpetuating for far too long. That's not who we aspire to become. It's not how we know ourselves. We're people who spend a lot of time and effort to make the world a better place for everyone. But it's a reality that we need to do this work now. The legacy of slavery is alive in each and every one of us in this country. Those of us who have all been carefully taught the ways of white supremacy culture. Everyone, not just white people. All of us are trapped in the system of injustice and inhumanity, and we have to do the work to change it. This is what Dr. King preached over and over and over again. The freedom he dreamed about is the collective liberation of the human race from the self-imposed suffering that has gone on far too long, in the words of Reverend Dr. William Barber, who continues King's work in the struggle to end poverty and to promote a moral agenda in legislation and politics. Reverend Dr. William Barber is also a good friend to Unitarian Universalism. Dr. King had hope for the future in spite of everything he witnessed and endured. He believed in the words of Unitarian minister and abolitionist Reverend Theodore Parker, who's the one who said, "The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice." That's one of ours. We're the ones we have been waiting for to bend that arc, the part of the arc that is Unitarian Universalism. And this is part of our shared history with Dr. King. Many of us know that in 1965, over 100 Unitarian Universalist ministers, white males at the time, women were still banned from the ministry during that period. These men answered Dr. King's call for clergy to join the Selma to Montgomery, Alabama March for voting rights after the first march was turned back on Bloody Sunday. The second march succeeded, But sadly, we lost 2 of our own to the violence, to the opposition that once again was encountered by the peaceful marchers. Reverend James Reeb, who wrote the song we sing to our children, and activist Viola Liuzzo were both murdered in Montgomery, Alabama. Dr. King delivered Reeb's eulogy. After the events in Selma, little over a year later, on May 18th, 1966, Dr. King was our honored Ware Lecturer at the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly in Hollywood, Florida. Dr. King was introduced by his good friend, the Reverend Dr. Dana Greeley, who was the president of our association at that time. Greeley said, "We are extremely grateful to our present lecturer for honoring us tonight. Preacher, reformer, citizen, man of peace, lover of justice. In any history, he will be appraised as one of the truly great men of this century. We offer him not only our respect, but our love and our loyal support. It is a great privilege to give to you the Dr. Martin Luther King." I can just imagine the thunderous applause. And I want to share with you Dr. King's own words to remind some of us and educate others about his connections and his relationships among those assembled. The solidarity demonstrated by Unitarian Universalists made a big impact on that extraordinary man, and I like to think that by extension, these words are words that he would apply to us as well. He said, "There are those wonderful moments in life when you speak before a group that is so near and dear to you that you don't feel like you have to engage in the art of persuasion. You don't feel like you are in the midst of strangers. You know that you are with friends. I can assure you that I feel that way tonight." He said, "My own personal experience with Unitarian Universalism began when I was a student at Boston University back in the early 50s. I can remember on several occasions visiting Arlington Street Church, where your distinguished Dr. Greeley was pastored at that time. And I can remember beyond that in the early years of the bus boycotts in Montgomery in 1955. 3 of your ministers visited and encouraged me during that very trying and often difficult period." A side note, Dr. King was only 25. King says, "I referred to David Cole, Alfred Hawkins, and my dear friend who's on the platform tonight, Homer Jack. Since that time, I've worked with Dr. Jack in Montgomery, in Ghana, West Africa, in Washington, in the world peace effort, and also in Selma. I also want to acknowledge your massive participation through your Commission on Religion and Race in the events in Alabama during 1965. Now, this support expressed itself both before and after the death of your colleague and mine, the Reverend James J. Reeb. We grieved at the death of Mr. Reeb, and I was glad to participate in his memorial service in the historic Brown Chapel AME Church in Selma. In Chicago, we are also engaged in a campaign to end the slums and the conditions that create slums. We are happy to welcome the cooperation of Unitarian Universalists in that movement. So you can see that in many ways, and for a long time now, we've worked together in a very meaningful way. I want to express my personal appreciation for your support, and let me say that it has been of inestimable value in the continuance of our humble efforts. Still gives me chills. So it was with this religious lineage of consciousness in my mind and heart that I went with my class of Unitarian Universalist transitional ministers to Montgomery, Alabama last October. for a conference and a civil rights legacy trip. Montgomery was the original capital of the Confederacy. The oppressive and humiliating conditions endured by the Black citizens of Alabama under the Jim Crow and segregation gave rise to the civil rights movement, starting with the bus boycott in 1955. Our group visited the Rosa Parks Museum, which is on the bus route where it all started. And Dr. King, again, he was newly arrived and newly installed at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, 25 years old, recently married with an infant daughter, still working on that PhD in Boston. He was the newly appointed leader of the Montgomery Improvement Association that he founded, specifically to lead the boycott efforts. Our group of ministers was welcomed at the parsonage where the Kings lived, that's now a museum, and we were given a tour of the parsonage and the church by church members who knew the King family and other members of that community that all participated together in this endeavor. At the church itself, they proudly showed us a mural on the wall depicting scenes of King's life and significant people from the movement. Reeb and Liuzzo are on that wall. We went to the Southern Poverty Law Center's Civil Rights Memorial, which is home to the beautiful memorial designed by architect Maya Lin. Reeb and Liuzzo's names are carved on that memorial as well. The motto of the museum is "The March Continues," as there is a lineage all the way through to today and the amazing work that's still happening on the forefront of civil rights and justice, work that we're doing here. Experiencing the museums and the memorials, being in Montgomery, all of the incredible events and places we learned about, it gave a rich context to carry with us to the Legacy Museum and the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, which were created by the Equity and Justice Institute, founded by another famous Ware lecturer and friend of UU's, Brian Stevenson. I cannot praise these places enough. The museum is highly experiential and interactive. It's intended to evoke a deeply emotional response that conveys the suffering endured by the millions of people who were the victims of slavery and Jim Crow and segregation and now mass incarceration. Stevenson says slavery wasn't abolished, it evolved. The aim of these places is to educate and inspire us, to take action, to help our nation reckon with its truth. We need to tell the truth about our history. We're not very good at that in the United States. And telling the truth will help us continue the work of creating justice. We all have a part to play, as Stevenson said. And I want us to finish with the words of Dr. King from that day in May when he was speaking to us. Now, let me say that I'm still convinced that nonviolence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and human dignity. Through nonviolence, a person can use moral means to produce moral ends. So since we're working toward a just society in this movement, we should use just methods to get there. Nonviolence says at its best, the love ethic can be a reality in a social revolution. With the nonviolent movement guiding us on, we can go on into that brighter day when justice will come. Amen. May we make it so. And now we will enjoy a beautiful anthem from our choir.
Sleep tonight, and may your dreams be realized. If the thundercloud passes rain, so let it rain down on him. Ooh, so let it be. Ooh, so let it be. Sleep, sleep tonight, and may your dreams be realized. If the thundercloud passes rain, so let it rain, let it rain, rain on me.
Thank you, choir, for such a beautiful anthem. Thank you. This is a time in our service where we take an offering that allows us to exercise that important generosity of spirit the universe has commanded us to give. And the universe has instructed us to give generously and joyfully. Even when we're tempted to keep some of that for our own selves, we thank you for the virtue of generosity. As we give today, remind us that generosity to others enriches us in many ways. The gift of this congregation will be mostly gratefully appreciated. And here at UUFNN, each month we also give folks the opportunity to share our generosity by sharing with a designated nonprofit. The Share Plate recipient for January is Shakespeare Animal Fund, and here to speak about it is James.
Good morning, everybody. My name is James Smack. I have been a board member of the Shakespeare Animal Fund for the past 8 years. Tell you a little bit about Shakespeare. Shakespeare was founded in 2004, so that would make this year our 20th year in existence here in Northern Nevada. And our mission has been very simple. We are there to help those that are less fortunate than ourselves get that emergency veterinary care that they need so desperately for their pets. I'm talking about the senior citizen on a limited income. I'm talking about a single mother with a couple of children who are living in a hotel room and they have a puppy whose leg has been broken. And unfortunately, the only amount of money they could come up with would be to euthanize that poor puppy. That's where we step in. That's where we come in and we negotiate with veterinarians, we provide funding, and we help that puppy live so he can continue to bring joy to that single mother and her children. So anyway, we are in our 20th year. We have raised over $1 million over that 20 years to help in this endeavor throughout our community and throughout Northern Nevada. And I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate the fellowship for providing this opportunity to Shakespeare Animal Fund. I encourage all of you to go to shakespeareanimalfund.org if you want to learn more about our organization. I've also left some of these out in the lobby as well if you want to learn a little bit more about how else you could help our organization. And we are always looking for board members too. So if you feel that calling as well, I'll be here for a few minutes after the service. Please come and see me. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all for your generosity. Now let the offering begin. And now, how about if we all get together and do the blessing for our offerings? For the work of this fellowship, which is more in love, faith, justice, and joy, we dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings. Thank you for your generosity.
Ooh, we did it. We fit it all in today, didn't we? I'm going to extinguish our chalice with the words of Brian Stevenson and the Equity and Justice Institute. We will remember. We will remember with hope, because hopelessness is the enemy of justice. With courage, because peace. With courage, because peace requires bravery. With persistence, because justice is a constant struggle. We will remember with faith, because we shall overcome. You're invited to stay for coffee and conversation in the gathering space, or to remain here, go get some coffee and come back in here for a conversation with the board. And there's that green sanctuary meeting happening over in Star King, so we have some options for you today. And those of you on Zoom, hello Zoom, we love you. Thank you for being with us today, and please feel free to stay online for some conversation with your peers there on Zoom. My beloveds, go from this place open to life, expecting to love, and prepared to serve. Go in peace, go making peace. Please rise, embody your spirit, and please belt out the fire of commitment.
Sets our mind and Lovely Sunday.